Also, this is just.
Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, discussion, and reviews each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be breaking down the Bad Batch episodes Infiltration and Extraction that just aired this week. Plus, we'll be discussing the latest Star Wars news and responding to your comments and questions, all that and much more on this episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. My name is Chris, and joining me is my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, Hannah. Hello, everybody. And a special hello to all of the bots who are watching this live on X.
Yay.
I have never watched a live video on Twitter/X in my entire life. And yet, judging by our numbers, that's where the majority of the views are coming from. And I have a sinking suspicion a lot of them are watching this going, Roger, 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 Roger. And that's just how we're going to roll with it. Also, to give everybody a little peek behind the scenes, Ben didn't finish the show notes until as the intro was playing, because I felt he needed a deadline in order to have everything ready. And I love that he just basically wrote what could be the perfect standard intro for every episode of the show. We're going to talk about new episodes of the Bad Batch. We're going to discuss the latest Star Wars news, and we'll respond to questions and comments. That's the show. Why do we need to change it every week? I think we've nailed it. So all that to say, great work, Ben, and great work, me, for setting the deadline. Anyways, it's going to be a great show. Lots of fun stuff to talk about.
We would love to get some super chats from the bots.
Yeah.
We'd love to.
Yeah.
I
assume they'll use.
Oh my god, yes.
I assume they'll use some sort of weird crypto thing that we've never heard of, and that won't matter in about 7 seconds.
I have a very enticing thing. There's no CAPTCHA. There's no CAPTCHA. You don't have to click anything saying I'm not a robot. This is your moment.
All right.
Just walk right in here and let us know what you think about the future of humanity, or lack thereof. Also joining us is Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
For the Republic! oh, sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm on. Is this thing on? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just playing a little Battlefront. Sorry, I was distracted. Apologies for that. Yeah, it's great to be back, guys. Bad Batch, whatever we're talking about.
I think we know why Ben didn't write the show notes until
it all makes
the
sense
intro
now.
was playing.
Yeah, it
makes so much sense.
Yeah. All that Battlefront.
Oh my gosh! And then he's back to gaming now.
Yeah,
so.
we've lost him. We won't
I've
get
had
him
fun
back.
asking for.
Did you say something? I didn't hear it.
Ben's connection corner is going to be: we captured a command post, we lost a command post.
based on the downward trajectory of how many connections there's been in these episodes, maybe we might not need a corner this week.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see. There's the voice that you hear and face that you see from the Raeside. It's Hannah.
G'day there. It's great to be there. And on the topic of the bots giving us fake numbers about how many people are watching these streams, I wish I got the memo that would be a thing. As for last week, I thought I got a record-breaking 400 viewers in a live show on my channel. I didn't put together that might be bots, and I was going nuts in the live show, being like, "Oh my god, welcome all 400 of you!"
At no point did you realize, hey, there's only like 25 people commenting.
Well, I do think that was weird. I was like, why is there hundreds of people not saying anything? But yeah, I finally realized that, oh, okay, this might be a bit of a glitch happening. But regardless, it's good to be here now. and talk with all of you. And yeah, can't wait to talk about these Bad Batch episodes. Oh my god, they were so good.
Yeah, that was me last week, and I immediately said, "Oh, all these new people, you should comment and let us know where you're from." And then there was silence, and I'm like,
Yeah, I
"Okay,
was like, oh,
okay, they're not really watching, are they?" That's hilarious. And to help break down these episodes, we have a very exciting guest. He's from the Sith List Podcast. It's our good friend of the show, Mr. Eric Strothers.
What's up, guys? Hey, listen, the Sith List is great, but I got to throw this out there. I am also from Dinner with the Healers, an excellent episode by episode Bluey podcast that I do with my family that embarrassingly or maybe amazingly has outdone any other creative endeavor I've ever done in my
Go
life.
figure.
Any album I've ever recorded. Yeah, it's like we Bluey. So yeah, there it is.
That's the story of how most people got into Star Wars podcasting. I was doing a serious podcast about current events, and then I did this Star Wars podcast for fun, and wow, hundreds of viewers. What?
I guess that just means Bluey is the new Star Wars.
I guess
It is.
man.
It's definitely the new Star Wars.
It's
Ask the
quite good.
Jedi.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Which episode is the Last Jedi of Bluey? What's the most controversial?
Probably Dad Baby.
Okay.
So
what happens
know
in it?
that.
it is an
Offhand.
episode that is not on Disney Plus.
Oh.
I guess
censored.
it's you know, it's I mean there's nothing wrong with it, but I think to maintain that whatever TV7 rating, there's something about it that they just have deemed that it doesn't make the cut. There's a whole rabbit hole you can go down where
Us
there's
Australians, man, we are untamable with our
there are
storytelling.
three or four, I think. No, I bet it's more than that. There's episodes where they edit things out for the Disney cut than what you see like if you watch it in Australia.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting.
What are we talking about? That is that ludicrous to Americans that they
Does
cannot
Bluey say
air
the
it
C
properly.
word at some point, or is
Probably, they probably do.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh,
yeah.
could you imagine? No, so like in one of them, there's an episode called Markets where they're at the market and they're wanting to take this pony ride. And it's this beautiful pony, but they don't have enough money for both the kids to ride on it. So they're like, okay, pony, bye. And it's a real sweet moment. But in the original version, as they say bye, the pony takes a huge dump. And it's our good friend from Star Wars Spelt Out, Josh Chapman, sent me that. He goes, yeah, here's what you missed over there in the States.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
So good.
Incredible.
Man,
Yeah.
we got to start checking the Australian version of the Bad Batch. Find out what we're missing
Yeah.
here.
Should.
Yeah, you
What-
you
is
didn't
there a
hear
scene-
the swearing rampage Crosshair went on when he got discovered. Like,
And doesn't Betcher take just a massive dump at some point, just in the middle of
Yeah.
one?
Well, and there was and if you remember back in the day during Clone Wars, they had weird censorship issues with the shows. Like what
They
would
did?
what would be the actual episode wouldn't make it to Cartoon Network. I remember specifically
true.
watching the episode of Rookies where
Mhm.
I think one of the cut up gets eaten by the thing. He pulls up and the clone goes, "What the hell was that?" And I remember catching, because I watched it on iTunes, like I had no idea it was cut out. Next thing I know, I watch it like maybe a year later on catching on TV, and I just hear, "What the hell was that? What the was that?" And I'm like, "Oh god, this is
Oh my
too
God.
much."
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well, and then
So
later
good.
seasons of the Clone Wars, they were just cutting out just glorified over the top violence, just decapitated head rolling on the floor and all that.
My
stuff.
favorite one is I think it's in one of the Camino episodes. Ventress impales somebody and then kisses them
Yes.
on the head or
Yes.
something.
Oh,
Took that out.
iconic. Yeah.
Yeah, I bought that episode on iTunes for like $1.99 or whatever things. It didn't. It cut out the death kiss. And I wrote to Apple and I said, "I want the full episode. Damn it, give me the full episode." And they're like, "We can't do that, but we'll refund you the money." So I got that episode for free that time.
Oh,
Ben
Oh wow,
the
damn.
Necro.
There you go. There
Oh
you
my
go.
God.
so
Good
Eric,
for
you
you
should-
for standing on your principles, man.
Yeah.
Eric, I guess you should be writing to Disney saying, "Why are you cutting the stuff out of the Bluey episodes? Give me my month subscription for free, please."
Yeah. That's how you do
Dear
it.
Mickey, where is the horse excrement? I
No,
demand.
that's the Hulu
Retribution,
version.
yes.
That's the Hulu version. They just gotta put over there.
Oh
Put it
man.
on
Oh my
ESPN.
god.
Well, Eric, I'm sure we could talk Bluey and the secrets of Bluey all night, but let's talk a little Bad Batch and let's get from you. What have you thought of season 3 so far?
I love it. I was I thought it was really cool. So the first 3 episodes, it started out at this pace that I was like, oh, I see what they're going to do. They're going to really stretch this season out. And then boom, the next thing you know, 3 episodes in, it's already where I thought it would be, like at mid-season. And they the stakes are high. The story's great. The room they're leaving to really develop what happens in the face of all the things that, like with Crosshair being gone and coming back and all these things, they've really set themselves up to give us something special. And you do have to wonder, like, okay, in these 2 episodes that we got most recently, it's like a fever pitch kind of thing with the pacing. Is the next one going to like slow it way down, or are they just going to keep going, full steam ahead? But it's been a wild ride, man. I've loved it. I'm impressed with the approach they've taken to it.
Yeah, they really picked up where season 2 left off and just kind of had just kept up that pace, kept up that intensity. And we'll talk about it in these episodes, all of the ways, the twists and turns that they throw at us as the adventure continues. But Chris, why don't you plug some stuff, and then we will start breaking down these latest 2 episodes.
All right, you 300 bots, I have some work for you guys to do. The first thing that you need to do is go over to YouTube and punch that subscribe button. I also have the great news that it does not require a checkbox, I am not a robot, to subscribe to a YouTube channel. So you can do this. After you subscribe, send us that cryptocurrency with those super chats and become a channel member. And you don't just have to watch us. You can listen to us as well by subscribing on your favorite podcast app, where you can use your amazing voice recognition software. Then you can head over to our Discord account, where you can chat more and learn more about human behavior. There's certainly a lot of human behavior over on Discord. So check it out. We got game nights there. We got watch parties, lots of fun stuff. And then finally, last but not least, go over to Threads and invade them over there at the SWU.
I don't know if your kind is a welcome over there, but you can try. You can try. At least not as much as X.
And then after you finish fully infiltrating the Star Wars Underworld, you can go for the whole Star Wars Underworld network, because they need some bots over there. I don't know if the Raeside needs any more bots, but if you want to have a bot mixer over there, I heard there were 400 of them. So there's 300 of you, 400 of them.
Creating my own Star Wars celebration over there.
Yeah, you can have a bot celebration over there on the Raeside.
Roger.
And if you want to stay on this channel, Iron Cannon on Mondays needs some bots, and so does Tractor Beam as well. And I'm sure the folks over at Tales from Beyond the Galaxy on Twitch would also like some bots watching. So check that out as well.
And once you've fully converted to your lifelike skin suit, be sure to come out to Toronto Comic-Con this weekend and come to my 2 panels, Intro to Star Wars Publishing. That is in just over 12 hours from now. So I'm not at all panicking. That's Friday, the 15th of March at 11 a.m. in the Theater 3, aka room 202 AB, and will feature, among other panelists, Claudia Gray, the Star Wars author of many great novels, including many of the High Republic books. And also on Sunday, there's Celebrating Star Wars, Theater 4, room 202 CD at 3:15. Come out to both. We're going to have a great time, great discussion. And we'll talk about books like Hannah's holding up there, Leia, Princess of Alderaan.
There you go.
One of the
greatest Star Wars books ever.
One of the best books.
It'll be a Claudia great time.
The actual best Star Wars book.
Dominic, don't use that one.
Oh yeah, no, I might go with that. I might, and I'll slip it in at the end of the panel. I'll be like,
I was gonna say she's gonna walk off the stage right after you say it, so that would be the last thing you say.
Oh man, do I dare? Well, we'll find out. We'll find out in about 13 and a half hours.
I hope you all had a Claudia great time. That's
Claudia great time. Oh man,
working with you. See you next year.
Oh,
Listen,
that's so bad. It's good.
My name's
I'm gonna
Bob
have to
Smith.
interject here that Lost Stars, I'm pretty sure, is the best Star Wars book of all time.
Oh yeah, you
I have
you
it
you might
floating
be on the money
around.
there. Where is
I
it?
keep
Yeah.
I keep thinking that if
It's
I
great.
put it somewhere that I'm gonna start reading it. So I put it on my couch. I put it on my coffee table. I got to figure out where to put it.
Well, you'll start reading it, like you'll pick it up and then you won't put it down. So wherever it is,
Yeah,
when
it really
you're
doesn't
finding
matter.
Started. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. But we're having this discussion of all of these. What's the best Star Wars book? They're all by Claudia Gray. So again,
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
intro to Star Wars publishing
Boom,
is
boom.
going to be a great time. And so celebrating Star Wars. That's an original name that nobody's ever thought of before. All right.
In Canada, this is a different copyright, so you can just
Exactly. All right, let's get to the Bad Batch. We're talking about season 3, episode 6, Infiltration, directed by Stuart Lee and written by Brad Rao, and season 3, episode 7, Extraction, directed by Saul Ruiz and written by Jennifer Corbett and Matt Michnovitz. We'll start how we always do. We'll go around the table, give some initial impressions, and Ben, put the video games down long enough to give us your initial impressions.
Switches down. Okay, I'll focus for at least a couple minutes. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to stay focused here. No, well, first off, I will say that I treated myself by actually staying up until 2 a.m. this week to watch these episodes, which is something I've been trying not to do, and trying to treat my body better than that and give it proper sleep. But I didn't do that
it's
this
really
week.
1 a.m.
I'm so discombobulated, but I think it was worth it. Honestly, I really did enjoy these 2 episodes. I have a few nitpicks, few things in there that I'll get into maybe later. But I think these were really, I think you understand, like, this show has continually, ultimately proven itself in regards to like showing why certain episodes are together. I think these 2 episodes work very well together as one little Star Wars mini movie. So enjoyed them.
Nice. Hannah, what about you? Your initial impressions on the episodes?
This could be the closest in terms of quality in all departments to Clone Wars Season 7. I think any Star Wars content has been. That probably sums it up the best, to be honest. I'll get into details later, but like that honestly, this is the closest, kind of in my mind, Clone Wars Season 7 being the 10 out of 10 perfection, and that's the bar. Like, this is the closest piece of media, visual media, I feel like I have watched be as close to that as possible. It's so good. So good.
I don't know if you'll get much of an argument on that. Eric, your thoughts?
That's really similar to what I was thinking. It's much like, if you'll recall, at Celebration Chicago, when the Australians came in and stole all the panels from us. The Australian has come in and stolen what I wanted to say. So, but no,
keep it on brand.
They were just bangers. And I was really pleased by how fast it was. And it's funny because I've been staying up way too late streaming Red Dead Redemption. And I was so tired when I watched them. And I would have dozed off if they weren't just crushing it nonstop. So clap, clap, clap to both episodes.
Absolutely. Chris, your thoughts? Are you gonna break the streak?
No, but I'm going to extrapolate the streak.
Okay.
Even better.
Because those are bits and pieces of what I had to say, but I have more on top of it. So yes, while I was watching these episodes, I felt like I was watching the Clone Wars. I felt like this was Clone Wars Season 8. This is like the first thing that we get after Siege of Mandalore. Like, that's what it really felt like to me. This was such a clone-centric episode. It gave me that like massive wave of nostalgia for the Clone Wars show and, Clones Beyond the Bad Batch. And so it felt very much like the Clone Wars, both in the quality and just the whole vibe of the show. The storyline was a very Clone Wars-like storyline, which I thought was very amazing and unexpected. So I was very pleasantly surprised by that. Amazing episodes. And I just got to say that Wolf is back, and I'm very excited. And, Disney Plus tried to get me by spoiling it, but I was too out of it to notice that Wolf is on the like preview the big banner preview for the episodes. I don't know how I didn't notice that. Like, I think it's because when I first looked at it, I tried to watch it at night and I was out of it. I'm like, I'm gonna watch this during the day so that I can appreciate this more and not hate it because I'm tired, because that's happened a few times. So I, somehow I missed it the first night. And then the second time I was just, in such a hurry to click through all the screens and get to the episodes that I didn't even notice that Wolf was there. So I was like watching the episode and, you see him from a distance at first, kind of from behind. And I'm like, I know that armor. That's Wolf. That's Wolf's armor. That's like one of my favorite clones. I know that from the back of my hand. And, sure enough, it was Commander Wolf. So, yeah, amazing episodes. Super excited about them. Super, super great quality stuff.
Mm-hmm. I hated them. I thought they were no, I'm kidding. They're spectacular. This is the storyline I think we've been waiting to see broken open this season. We got the escape from Tantus. We've been having these interesting sort of crosshair character study moments. This is the episode that picks up on some of the big overarching questions that go all the way back to season 1, all the way back to the first time we see Captain Rex, and he's clearly working on something bigger. And here, this almost feels like a different show. Like the Bad Batch, we sometimes talk about the Bad Batch feeling like guest stars in their own show. This episode kind of felt that way. Crosshair is a big player in it, but this is as much a Rex episode as it is any of the Bad Batches, any of the Bad Batch characters. I think back to that season 7 Clone Wars arc with the Bad Batch. I mean, that was a Rex story. So centering Rex in a Bad Batch story feels very natural, feels very right. And, whatever is being worked on, whatever is going on here is very, very intriguing, very, very interesting. Let's talk about this opening scene that we get. This opening scene that almost feels kind of separate to the rest of the episode, which is a meeting between Chuchi and Singh. Singh, of course, being the senator from the planet Raxus. I forgot that was his name. I saw him walk in on the scene, and I'm like, I know who this guy is. I remember him, but I couldn't think of what it was. And so in my notes, I've written Rex plus Hauser walking with mustache, because I'm like, that's how I'll remember this. That's how I'll know what's going on. And then, of course, they said his name. But this is the early days of the Rebel Alliance. Like, this is the true beginning of what we see in Rogue One. Hannah, let's go to you. What did you think of this scene and seeing the origins of this side of the Rebel Alliance?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, off the bat, I'm such a big Chuchi fan. I just love her character. And I always want more Chuchi. Give us the Chooch. Come on. I think the conversation they had, brief but important, which is kind of actually been the dialogue style of the Bad Batch so far, I've found. It's been very, line, end of conversation. But within those few exchanges, something really, kind of important is said. And I think you're totally right here, Dom. I think you understand the rumblings and the conclusions that these both sides are coming to, and they make that very clear. That Chuchi was once Republic Senator Avi Singh, part of the CIS, the part of the separatists, and having to go, this is a different time. We are in a completely different, it's not just the normal run-of-the-mill politics we've got to work with now. This is a completely new era of the galaxy that we're in, and they have it's almost like evaporated the issues that they would have had, and they you can feel the energy of like, let's talk, because this, for both sides, this is something entirely different. So I love the exchange they have here. Two really interesting characters. And I love the kind of the bringing back up of characters we have seen earlier in the Bad Batch. So to have Avi Singh in this, I think it was a great addition of just a familiar face we've seen introduced from this show. So loved it. Great opening. Great opening.
Yeah. We talk a lot these days about, people about partisanship and people not being able to work with people they disagree with on other issues, on an issue they may agree on. And like, this is a really idealistic scene, and it's really nice to see like these two people that, had they met in the previous show, would have been on opposite sides. But here they are putting that aside, reaching an understanding, being willing to work together for the greater good, for the bigger cause. It's just one of those things that you wish you'd see this on the news more often instead of what we usually get. Chris, what did you think of this scene?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the most interesting dynamics about the change from the Clone Wars to the Galactic Civil War is that realignment of some of the separatists, a lot of the separatists, into rebels, part of the rebellion alliance to restore the Republic. Like, I think that's so interesting. Like, alliance to restore the Republic that they seceded from. Like, it's really a fascinating realignment of interests, and it just really continues to hit home the importance of that kind of through line that starts with their heroes on both sides, the line in the Call of Revenge of the Sith, and is expanded on the actual episode Heroes on Both Sides in the Clone Wars, and now is continuing through a lot of the stuff going on in the Bad Batch and the Star Wars Rebels as well. It's really interesting to see that, and I think really the mirror of that, I'm talking about this very meta, not as specific to these characters it is, because that's more what y'all are talking about, but in like a meta way, it's very much kind of like a mirror to the Republic, to kind of show how imperfect it was and show how it had the Empire existing already within it. Like, the Empire had already won the Clone Wars prior to becoming officially the Empire in Order 66 and Grievous and Dooku being killed, because the Republic was essentially already the Empire. All those pieces were in place, and all the systems of power were in place already. And the Separatists, some of them, the heroes on their side, they knew that. They were already fighting the Empire before it even came, because they saw a lot of the Separatists were the ones that saw the part of the Republic that already had shown itself to be the Empire, shown itself to be corrupt, shown itself to be imperialist, and all these negative things that the Empire ended up becoming, not just because of Palpatine, but because of what Palpatine allowed to continue and fed off of. So it has very big implications for the overall politics of Star Wars and the politics of the governments in Star Wars. To have, a meeting like this is very much a manifestation of that whole thing that's going on. It's very, very interesting.
It speaks to something about the prequel era that doesn't get talked about a ton, because they are prequels, because they came out after the original trilogy. And so you watch the prequel trilogy and you're looking at this guy Palpatine kind of funny the whole time, because he's got the same name as the Emperor, and hey, it's the same actor as the Emperor, and hey, wait a minute, something's going on here. But if you take a step back and you try and imagine Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith without the knowledge of the original trilogy, Palpatine is he's this kindly old guy. He comes in to, save the day in the Phantom Menace. He steps up because the Republic is broken, and he's gonna fix it. And instead, we watch over the course of 2 movies him slowly undermine the Republic even more, and then get rid of it and replace it with the Empire. And through Anakin's eyes, we see the people going, no, he's a good guy. He's on our side. He wants to do what's right for the galaxy. But of course we know he's actually not doing that. And so, you can understand characters within the Republic like Chuchi, like Padme, like Bail, sort of going like, okay, maybe this guy is somebody who we can be trusted, somebody who we can go along with. Of course, those are the characters that do wind up starting the delegation of 2000. So maybe not the best example on my part, but you can understand why people would go along with it. And then the shock that would come when, oh no, he was actually the bad guy all along. It's, that's a storyline that's there in Star Wars. Is very much part of the prequel trilogy. We just don't think about it as much because we, as the audience, always knew where it was going. Eric, let's throw to you. What did you think of this early stages of the formal Rebel Alliance?
Well, I thought it was really cool because you see people put aside the differences that don't really matter to focus on what really does matter. And you're right, we see so much of that needing to happen in real life. But like your guys' analysis of it versus I watched this with my 9-year-old son. So what we talk about afterwards was much different. And it was like, what's up with this dude's outfit? Is he getting ready to tame a lion or like twirl a baton in the middle of a college football bowl game or something? And so yeah, that's more of how our conversations went. But yeah, it's really cool to see the gravity of it and the realness of the people. And I think that's something that's easy to get lost in certain mediums, but they did a really good job of showing the reality of how people are dealing with what's going on.
And it's all very cloak and dagger too. Like, Rex and Hauser are, they're sneaking them into places and they're constantly looking over their shoulder, and with good reason. Ben, do you want to weigh in at all on this scene?
Yeah, no, because I did have a thought while watching the episode of when we get to Teth and we see like this, them hiding in this abandoned monastery that's broken down, and there's this hollow table in the middle of the table thing. I'm like, wait a minute, is this the first ever Rebel base? Is this the first like Rebel hideout in this era that we know of? And like that's not a rhetorical question. I'm genuinely asking because I'm like, I can't really think of anything more because we're the earliest we've ever seen in this timeline, and we're seeing the kind of the creation of the Rebel. I didn't even think about like Chuchi and this guy's like their meeting really is a kind of a formal length. We talked about it before how Chuchi really is stepping up into a role that I think if Padme were still alive, this would be Padme's role. She would absolutely be this. And we're assuming that, maybe Chuchi's talking to, Bail on the side. Maybe she's not. We know Bail's out there doing stuff. Mon Mothma's probably out there doing stuff with Ahsoka and all this going on. We know other things, but this is one Rebel cell that we're seeing develop here. And we see the kind of the political side of it with, ultimately these two, ultimately fascinating to kind of end the Clone Wars with, okay, what were we fighting about? Like, what were we actually fighting about? What was all of this about? And having two people from opposite sides of the thing to sit down at the table and go like, okay, well, now we got problems. Now we actually have a problem on our hands. And how do we deal with this? And seeing this political intrigue go off, but also seeing the militarized side of it and seeing both sides of it go off the rails. Like there's a assassination attempt on these two, and then we have what happens later in the episode on Teth. It's not going great because they're not in good standings, and they think so. It's really it's more on edge. Like I think Star Wars tends to drift towards those rebel stories because it is edgy. It is that, oh my God, the characters are at wit's end. They don't have the protection. They're, running against the clock. But this really is like knife's edge rebellion. They have nothing. They're just trying to do whatever they can to rebel against the Empire.
Yeah. Yeah. And I that is a good question. Is this the first Rebel base? It may well be. It may well be. But
see,
then,
if this was done before the original trilogy, it will give us the location of the Rebel base. They're on Teth. They're over on Teth. See, Lord Vader, she can be reasonable.
Sometimes I wonder, if George were still in charge of and making stories like this, would we be getting like, Chuchi inserted into Rogue One sort of things, like being at that table.
Oh my God, yeah.
No, we would have We would have Chuchi being inserted into A New Hope. He would just be filming new scenes. He would be using AI or whatever else, CGI, to like change the mouth of like Tarkin and Leia and have the gun. They're like they're on. I was talking to Rio Chuchi and she was on chat. It would be madness.
Yeah. So we go to Teth in this episode, which great callback, bring us all the way back to the Clone Wars movie.
Such good fan service.
Where's the rock music, Kevin Kiner? Where's the rock music? Where's the techno?
Bring that back, yeah. And like, it is seeing something now that we haven't seen since the Clone Wars movie. I mean, it just puts into contrast how far they've come with this animation style. Like, you watch those scenes on Teth in the Clone Wars movie and then watch this, you would not believe it's the same show. Again, if George were around, we might be special editioning some stuff up. But instead, I don't think they're going to go back and remake the Clone Wars movie, for better or for worse.
Clone Wars remastered, upscaled for
not a bad idea, honestly.
Yeah, but there have been worse ideas.
They do it with video games. Why not? Shows it's the same process.
There you go.
CGI.
But we were introduced to this like rebel cell that Rex has been building up, and Chris, I'm gonna throw this to you, and I'm gonna throw it to you this way. This is a show, right? This is like another. Like, this feels like this could be or should be. Like, no hate to the Bad Batch and the story that it's been telling. It's been terrific, but like, this is a show. This is worthy of its own thing.
So this is what I feel. I feel more strongly about this than you might. I feel this is very important to me. I love the Bad Batch. I think it's great, and I think it's one of the best things for Star Wars that's ongoing right now. However, there's a piece of me, there's a piece of my heart that's still missing. And that's why you don't hear me saying things like the Bad Batch is the best thing ever. It's better than the Clone Wars. It's better than Ahsoka. It's, you don't hear me better than Andor. You don't hear me saying that. And that's because I have a Clone Wars sized hole in my heart for an anthology series and a series that can just deal with all the aspects of what's going on at the same time in the universe and not just a specific group of characters. And so this is the last season of the Bad Batch. I want to see Star Wars Rebels again, but I want to see the Galactic Civil War show, the Rebellion show. I don't want to see, another like Ghost Crew or another Bad Batch. Like, I want to see an anthology series, not like a Tales of the Jedi. You're getting like 6 episodes, like a full series that's like, 15, 22 episodes a season that is just going through the chronology of what's going on with the beginnings of the Galactic Civil War, bridging from where we are here into things that we saw in Rebels, into things going on with Andor and Rogue One and Kenobi and all the other things that are kind of circling around this era. I want to see it all come together in an anthology series like the Clone Wars, because you can do one thing there that you can't with all this other stuff, and that is you can have shows within shows, seasons within seasons, stories within stories, and you can have a creative freedom to push things in different directions that you can't. You still have a baseline. At the end of the day, you still need the Bad Batch characters. You still need to deal with Crosshair and what's going on with him. Like, you still need to do that in the show as much as you need to do with Ezra and Kanan and Hera and Sabine and Chopper and Zeb in the Rebels show. And it always felt weird when, we got to have stuff with Ahsoka or Vader in there or Obi-Wan and Maul, because it's like taking away from the show. I don't want to play that game. I just want to be like, let's just do a show where, hey, you might get just one arc about this situation or these characters, but it's going to be a darn good one. It's going to be like Siege of Mandalore. You wish that thing was in theaters if it wasn't, because and for the people who vibe with those characters or that want to see that particular situation on screen, it's going to be like the best thing ever. Like we feel about like the Siege of Mandalore episodes, or those early Mandalore episodes with Sidious earlier in season 5, or the Tiki's episodes for our good friend Dan, like all that stuff, or the Corrin episodes, I should say. Like that's what I want to see. So this is not just like a speculative backdoor pilot for me. This is reminding me of what I truly want.
Yeah. Eric, what do you think? What do you think of Chris's pitch? What do you think of the idea of basically doing the Clone Wars, but in the Dark Times era?
The ramblings of a madman. That's what I think. No, I mean, I agree. But one thing I think that Star Wars has really done a good job with is making stories about people. And, one of the things that made the Clone Wars work in its scope is that, at least on some level, we've got a known quantity and it's in the center and everything is revolving around it. And so I don't know how much for like the greater population, something like that would be attractive. For us, it would rule super hard. But for like the people who aren't super hip to it, I think what would happen is you would see performance numbers that we've seen with other things that have made Lucasfilm question if we want to keep going this direction. And from a business standpoint, I think that you'd have to exercise caution. From a storytelling standpoint, for us, for the nerds, I think it would be neat.
Yeah, maybe there's a balance in there, and like the Bad Batch has done this before, where like in season 1, there's that Ryloth episode. That's just a Clone Wars episode.
Yeah,
the Bad Batch makes a brief cameo in it, which is sort of like Hondo making a brief cameo in the Onderon arc of season 5. Like it just sort of happens.
Oh my god, that happened. Yeah,
I forgot about that.
So weird. That was a weird insertion into that arc.
Totally forgot about that.
But it's just,
It does.
Go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
No. I'm just kind of following up on what Chris was saying earlier in regards to like this does feel like we're at this point where, yes, the Bad Batch, the story of the Bad Batch, what's left of them, their story is perhaps about to end or crescendo or something's going to happen at the end of the season that will give a satisfying ending. But it feels like for the clones overall, I'm not sure they're going to be able to wrap all this up in, the next 8 to 10 episodes, however many there is left. So like, I'm very curious. Like, okay, what is next? I mean, we've had this discussion before. I'm like, okay, we've had an animated show of some sort, if not multiple animated shows on at once, for the past, decade or more. So what is next? I am curious, and it doesn't feel like we know. And this episode puts a highlight on like there's that one shot of here's Rex and Gregor, here's Wolf, and it's like you guys are going to team up in the future. Like this is happening. This is the beginnings of that, and like we know where this is going, but there's a lot of time between now and Rebels, and what could happen and what does happen to all these clones. I'm very curious, and I think to answer your question, yeah, there's a show here. I would love to see that show, no matter what it is. Like I would love. Obviously, I love the format of Clone Wars. I also understand that Clone Wars didn't work for everybody, and Clone Wars didn't always work for me either. So, like, you have to have that happy medium. I think Bad Batch kind of built on Clone Wars in a lot of ways, and I do agree with the people because I've grown to appreciate Rebels more. Obviously, appreciate Bad Batch, and I understand that like you have to have that central driving narrative, those characters that week in week out you're attached to, and that's why I found myself freaking crying when Ezra showed up in live action because I was attached. After 4 seasons of Rebels, it got to me. And so now, yes, anthology series. I love that idea. I love Tales of the Jedi. I hope we get more of that. But how does that go forward? And how do you tell this story? Because there's freaking a million stories you could tell in this era. We've already gotten a million stories in this era. We could tell a million more because a lot's about to happen, and this particular era, right after Revenge of the Sith, is completely open to whatever can come next.
My take on what we are saying here, because I totally agree, is that these few episodes, these two specifically, with the involvement of Rex and Wolf and the clones, there's others. Oh my god, what's happening? There's action, and we're all kind of going, "Ooh, there could be more. This feels like more." That was the energy when the Bad Batch showed up in Clone Wars Season 7, being like, "Oh, there's new characters. There's energy here. There's a story here. They're interesting. They're emphasizing." Right. It's the same energy to me. I think it's, and we're probably about to pull that up anyway, but Joel's mentioning like backdoor piloting. It almost has that energy of you can tell there's more story here. And I had that thought back when Clone Wars Season 7 came out and watching that and everyone kind of talking about it, and I kind of was a bit cynical about it, being like, oh well, what could they tell with old clones post Order 66? That would be is there anything to tell, or is that going to just be kind of flat storytelling? But I have the same kind of questions with the Rex Wolf thing. Like phenomenal character, oh my god, of having if we followed a show with Rex, but it would be interesting to see what story plot line that they would cling to. Would it be just the story of how did Rex, Wolf, and Gregor go into hiding? Would that be a show in itself? Would that be the central point, and what they explore with that? So it's not really a statement. This is just a rhetorical question of just like, what would that cling to in terms of a story for a show? But it's interesting.
Yeah. That's the question for Jen Corbett and Brad Rao and
come on,
should they choose to continue? But I think it's safe to say, like, I don't think this style of animation is going anywhere. This show, Bad Batch may be ending, but I think there's going to be storylines that continue with these characters that we've met in this show, characters that we've re-met in this show, and that are going to lead us sort of on the animation side into the future. And like, Rex is a character who is very much linked with Ahsoka. And if we look at how Ahsoka's return went about, she came back after Clone Wars season 7. Her first appearance is not in her own show; it's in The Mandalorian, and then she's in the Book of Boba Fett. And they're hinting at this other storyline that she's involved in, the Grand Admiral Thrawn's storyline, which then becomes the basis for her own show, which we saw last year. Rex is following kind of an interesting trajectory here. It could be very similar. He goes from Clone Wars season 7 to being a recurring character on the Bad Batch, and all the while he's working with the Bad Batch and doing stuff with the Bad Batch, he's still got his other stuff that seems to be his main focus. And it's almost like what he's doing with the Bad Batch is a little bit extra for him. It's what's on the side. And he keeps his focus on Tantus, on liberating clones, on fighting the Empire, on whatever his main goal is. And look, who's to say what's coming next? I'm not here to say there's going to be a Rex show coming down the pipe. But that would be cool if it were something. And like that is the same trajectory that Ahsoka followed. I suspect Rex would stay in animation. We've got that great cameo from him in Ahsoka with Tim Morrison voicing him. But I suspect this is a character that even more so than Ahsoka is linked to the animation.
And there's a great benefit to it staying in animation, and this is something that I've been looking forward to bringing up, and now's the time to talk about it. I mean, this show is already 90% D. Bradley Baker, but episodes like this even highlight it even more when you have those additional characters. And what it highlights is, we brought in some characters that have been around for 16 years. I mean, that's what blows my mind. D. Bradley Baker has been building these characters as a voice actor for so long that, someone who was born then can now drive a car. Like that is an incredible run as an actor.
Don't make me
to
feel
go
old.
16 years and to be at the peak now. He's gone from voicing a lot of clones in the Clone Wars movie and introducing us to Captain Rex to carrying what, we've said is one of the best episodes of animated television we've seen. And this is an incredible span for him. He's such an incredibly talented actor, and what he's done is amazing. Not doing just one character for 16 years, but literally no one could count. It would take painstaking counting to count how many characters he's put uniqueness into voicing all the clones over that period. And so, yeah, having more Rex, more clones in another show, having it be animated, that's something that I sorely miss about a lot of Ahsoka's future being live action is Ashley Eckstein's presence. I'm glad that there's still a little bit of stuff here and there with like Tales of the Jedi and stuff. But I mean, it would be amazing to have, another show that she could be a star of as well, because she is also incredible. So yeah, having a show that could continue to feature D. Bradley Baker in the future is a necessity. You have to do it.
Yeah, I mean he's so talented, and yeah, you can't waste that. You don't want to waste that. All right, let's speaking of the talent of D. Bradley Baker, let's talk about one of those returning clones that we got this week. We brought back Hauser. We saw in the Ryloth arc.
Hauser.
And he had
Captain Perfect Hair.
had a bit of a tense reunion with Crosshair. Hannah, let's go to you. What did you think of the return of Hauser?
Yeah, I mean, I think this character was such a fantastic introduction, and it was kind of sad that I don't even think we got him at all in season 2. Maybe
no,
we see him in passing. I don't think we saw him at all.
Maybe he's a prisoner at one point.
Yeah, I feel like I see him in cuffs somewhere or something. Oh yeah, there's an echo episode. Yeah, anyway. It's great to have his proper return in this episode in this season. He's such an interesting guy, and I love to see. I love seeing his dynamic with Rex. And they're kind of pals and how close they have become. And then, yeah, obviously, I think it's kind of right. It feels right that we're not just being like, yay, Crosshair's back, let's carry on. I actually appreciate that there's at least someone giving that friction that feels kind of right and rightful, that someone's like, hey, you're a terrible guy. You've done terrible things. That feels justified that Hauser is this angry about it and go and look, hey, I do not trust you. So I think that was a great contrast. My favorite thing in Star Wars storytelling is like pinning two opposite characters together to show juxtaposing ideas and beliefs. I think they do it really well. And he's that juxtaposition. He's that Hauser and Crosshair. So yeah, I loved the integration of Hauser back into this show. I love him. He's great. Look at the face. Come on.
He does have great hair too.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You're like, what gel is he using? They are in the middle of a war and it's still perfect. Come on.
Whatever gel Slick was using.
Oi.
I really like the way he just stuck to his guns as far as like, listen, even if you're a good guy now, you still did horrific things that you should feel terrible about and maybe be punished about. Like, he didn't back down from that. And I did think it was interesting, like the way Crosshair played that out with sort of like his typical, I don't know, Clint Eastwood like vibe, but also like, hey, I get it. But here's why. And, when he talks about how ultimately, like, especially when Order 66 happened and all that he genuinely, nobody ever thinks they're the bad guy. Like, I say that all the time. He genuinely thought he was doing the right thing, and that his comrades betrayed everything that they had ever stood for. Look, our entire life revolved around following orders and doing this, and that's what we're supposed to do, and you're not doing it. And so he thought that he was making the right decision, and then admits, yeah, I was wrong. The Empire had way different plans for us, and loyalty means something different to them, and it's very one-sided. And you're right, I did this, but here's kind of why, I guess. So I like that he owned it, but at the same time, like, showed where his convictions were, and that it wasn't just, I'm a butthole and I love being a butthole and I'm going to do butthole stuff. He didn't, that wasn't what he did. And so that made the scene even more powerful.
Yeah. I like his line about what does he say? You don't have to believe it, but it's the truth. Like, like he's like, dude, I know, like, whatever, don't believe me, whatever. I'm on your side now, and I'm telling the truth. And I like the idea that, like, we just had an episode where the rest of the batch were like, I don't know about Crosshair. Like, some of them were like, Wrecker, and just like, hey, he's part of the team now, and Hunter has this whole journey of trying to trust him again. And then we see basically the same thing happen again, but it's just a completely different way of seeing Nemec. Like, it's such a great moment where it's the Omega and Crosshair, and they're talking, and he's being Crossdad. I love. Shout out to Jen Marie who gave me that. Crossdad is now a thing on Twitter, instead of Crosshair. And Crosshair's being Crossdad. He's like, you got your thing, you got blah blah blah. Can you carry all this stuff? And he's like, oh, I'm much worse. and they're over there just looking like, whoa, okay, what is this dude? Like they're just watching him the entire episode, going like, okay, I'm not sure about this Crosshair, but he really cares about Omega, so maybe he's not so bad.
Yeah, because she says, what'd she say? She says, "You're worse than Hunter," right? To set up that line, it's like, yeah, I guess from a certain point of view.
Such a great line.
Yeah, but I mean, this goes back to, we were talking a little bit last week about, Crosshair and Hunter have reached an understanding. Crosshair and the Bad Batch have reached an understanding. Is that the end of Crosshair's sort of redemption arc, or the Crosshair having to deal with the repercussions of what he did, what happened? And I think this episode goes to show that, like, wherever this guy goes from now on, deservedly or not, he's going to be looked at a little bit funny by certain people, by people that know what he did and how things went down. And it's now on him to earn their trust back. And all we've seen him do across these last couple of episodes is just that. Hunter trusts him again, Wrecker trusts him again, and by the end of this, it seems like Hauser and everybody else and Rex are feeling like, okay, yeah, maybe this guy is who he says he is. Maybe he maybe is not telling us everything he knows, and maybe he's keeping some things hidden, or he's buried some stuff pretty deep, but his heart is in the right place, and he's not going to actively betray us.
Well, there's something about having to rely on somebody that makes it easier to rely on somebody.
Yeah.
I need this guy to save my skin, so therefore, all right, I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt, because please come save the day. Thank you, sir. And I think that him doing that kind of helps prove, at least for now, where he's at, and helps soften that up.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about this guy. And I don't mean Scorch.
I swear that's what you're going to talk about. When I saw that screenshot, I'm like, all right, it's time to have the Scorch discussion.
Yeah, big Scorch talk. He's
Let me
there.
pull up Republic Commando.
Is it Scorch? Wow, use your words, Hannah. Is it Scorch? I don't think it is. I thought that was the whole point.
I thought it was Scorch, but
I've been swayed by social media.
Well,
Everyone on social media says Scorch.
Wolf said something to that guy and said, watch him, Hilo. And
no, but there's
that's Scorch. That's Scorch. That is definitely Scorch.
But there's another clone commando in the episode that's with Wolf, and I think that's
Hilo.
I think that's
Hilo. That got it.
Right. Okay, gotcha.
Now it makes sense.
I'm talking about the other guy, the Clone X Trooper. Hey,
yes,
maybe he's not. Maybe he works with the bots on the other website,
formerly known as Clone Twitter Trooper.
Twitter Trooper. So we saw one of these guys previously in season 2. We have one of them show up at the beginning of the episode, get captured by Rex and Hauser, and then get killed by a third one, who's the one in the hologram in the screenshot talking to Scorch. I know there's a lot of theories about who this guy is. Let's address them, and I'll be the one to say it. I don't want this to be true, but that's 100% tech.
Oh,
okay.
All right. Here we go. Get ready.
Here's my thought process here. So I've been for weeks now, I've been on social media, as I do. I live there, by the way.
You live there?
I'm so sorry.
And yeah.
P.O. Box 113.
So I've been specifically on Twitter too much, and I think before the show premiered fully, there was this small but very vocal group of Bad Batch fans that were like, Tech lives, Tech is back, Tech did not die, I'm dying on this hill, he's definitely back. And the entire time, up until this episode came out, I was like, look at these crazies. They're in denial. There's no way. Tech is dead. Tech is definitely dead. Without a shadow of a doubt, he's definitely dead. And then I'm watching these episodes, and they keep coming back to this guy. And I'm like, is it though? Is it Tech? And I can safely say now, after watching these 2 episodes, I'm like, I'm firmly in. Then this is Tech. Tech lives. Thanks. And I don't want to be. I don't want to be here. Okay, I don't like this, but this is where I am, and I can't deny reality.
So let me lay out my thinking on this and why I think this is the case. And let me say this: I don't want Tech to be alive in the larger scope of Star Wars storytelling. If we laser in on the Bad Batch and forget that it seems like no death in Star Wars is permanent anymore. Also, I'm looking at you, High Republic Phase 3. Nobody died on Starlight Beacon. Anyways, but if we focus in on this, there's one piece of hard evidence and there's some narrative evidence. And they have been spending a lot of time setting up this character in direct opposition to Crosshair, or they spend a lot of time doing that in this episode. It seems to be a showdown between Crosshair and CX2 or CX3 or whoever the hell this guy is, down to the point that they have this showdown in the waterfall, which to me evokes the showdown between Sherlock Holmes and Professor Moriarty in the old stories, which is Holmes fighting his evil counterpart on the waterfall. And I see that happening. I'm like, yeah, that's pointing in that direction. But the reason you bring Tech back and the reason you have him go evil is the whole reason that Crosshair was bitter towards the Bad Batch. And he says this in the season 1 finale, is you never came back for me. You wrote me off as a lost cause and you never came back to do this, to save me, to consider that I might be redeemable, that I might be worth saving. And so that left Crosshair feeling bitter, left him feeling abandoned, and left him not really wanting to go back to the Bad Batch and still feeling more inclined towards the Empire. If this is Tech, this gives them the chance to do it again and to get it right. And as a story of this unit of clones, this family of clones, them screwing up once and getting a chance to do it again and get it right, that to me is a very powerful, satisfying story in and of itself as 3 seasons of animated television. So I think I like I said, in the larger context of Star Wars, I think Star Wars is getting a little too wishy-washy with the killing off his characters and bringing them back. So I'm not a huge fan of it in that way. A lot of the evidence is circumstantial. You know, people say, oh, he's got a bit of a hunch. Oh, his voice sounds a bit tech-like. Yeah, I can see both of those things, but I don't think either of them are convincing. I do want to know why Dr. Hemlock had Tech's goggles, though. Why would he have those? Why would he do that? Why would he go and collect something like that if he wasn't collecting the rest of Tech? But as a narrative, as a story, that works for me. That's a satisfying story that feels very in line with Star Wars and the type of story that Star Wars tells. And it's a new spin on the redemption story, because it's a redemption for Crosshair, yes, but it's also redemption for the rest of the Bad Batch in the way that they screwed up and they failed their brother.
I think the only way that works is if Crosshair is driving those decisions. It has to be him to make it a lesson that they learned, because you know, a lot of Crosshair's behavior shows that they were right to distance themselves from him. And so I think it's up to him to be the impetus for that. Now, having said that, I do at times wish that deaths were permanent, because it adds a gravity to it that you can't get any other way. Also, I like Tech a lot, and I hate to see him used in that form. However, logic would dictate that there's no way from a storytelling standpoint that they would keep focusing on this guy. But then I think about the dude in Ahsoka that everybody's like, ooh, who's this? Is this no, he was just some dude that
literally smoke.
Yeah. And so because of that, then it's like, well, maybe that's exactly what they would do, is focus on somebody and have it be nothing. But I did, I noticed Tech's goggles first thing. But part of me wonders if they're hammering us over the head with that as the misdirection. Like, here's who you're. I mean, plainly, it has to be somebody that matters to them, but the who that is could completely surprise us.
Yeah.
I have a potential.
Okay.
And I have a rebuttal to all this tech talk that we're having.
That's a great podcast name.
Tech talk. Oh my god, yeah.
We should start. You know what we should do? We should start a TikTok account called Tech Talk, where we just do tech stuff.
The TikTok.
Nobody do that. It's our idea. Nobody steal it.
And then we'll do a series of lecture events, and we'll call those Tech Talks. Like
My
TED
buddy,
Talks.
whose last name is Tech, started a podcast called Tech Talk. So
there you go.
Are you taking?
Scratch that idea again.
Yeah, it's TECK, but you know,
Tech.
you could fight him for it. He's pretty soft. You could probably take him. So
No, we have to join forces. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, I think that's
your latest tech and tech news.
Yeah,
tech.
Oh my god.
With tech.
Anyways,
yes, oh my god, yeah, I'm talking. I've got a point to make because it's not tech. It's definitely not tech because this trooper is a certain AWOL clone of Cody. I am on the train that is on station that this is Cody, and he has been commissioned and he has turned into one of these troopers. I think story-wise, this would fit. It's someone that knows the Bad Batch. It's someone who has had a close encounter with and working relationship with Crosshair, and they had a very big conversation in season 2, and it was someone again, just a bit of that contrast of perspectives and views. And Crosshair has had that flip down, and he's back with the Bad Batch. He's against the Empire. But I think there's merit in trying to say, Rampart and the Empire said Cody went AWOL. Well, they probably saw, hey, there's a clone misbehaving. Can we put him into conditioning? Can we put him in under some tests and turn him into one of these ex-Dark clones, whatever we're calling
the Twitter clones.
The Twitter
I
clone.
like that quite a bit.
It's pretty good, right? The other piece of evidence, and Dom, can you get up that photo that you had before of the battle that they were having in the waterfall?
In the waterfall, yeah, sure.
Who else in season 2? Oh no, how am I going to get the reflection? In season 2, used a knife, just like that one, the electric knife. Cody iconically had, his blaster got knocked out, and he used the knife in hand-to-hand combat in season 2. And
okay, so let me just jump in here with this. I don't mean to dominate the conversation, but because Cody killed that lizard thing that Obi-Wan was riding around on, what they need to do, that was him, right?
Yeah.
Ordered shot. They need to have Batcher eat his face off. And that's how he meets his end. It's just listen, it all comes together. Exactly.
It's just justice. Oh, I love
that's very good. That's there's some impressive homework in there.
Thank you.
Man,
Yes.
that was very good.
I also think the way that this could go, which is kind of circling back to this kind of backdoor pilot sort of trajectory, is that my prediction then with this theory of like, okay, it's Cody, is that this is actually going to be quite a big plot point for Rex in the whatever form of the finale we'll get. We'll get the big Bad Batch kind of them together fighting the Empire, Hemlock, Tantus, trying to clear all the clones out. That will be the main series finale. The kind of B plot will be Rex realizes and finds out that this is Cody. And like that was mentioned and talked about in this episode is once they're conditioned, their identity's wiped, memory's gone, they're completely not who they are. The clones have lost all, just sense of individuality. You cannot redeem them. And Rex will learn this. He will find this all out, and this will become apparent to him. And the only option is he has to be
Old
the one
Yeller
that kills Cody.
No, Paw, Yeller's my dog. I'll do it. That's what it's gonna be.
No, Hunter, Cody's my buddy.
So can I say something real quick just about the fight in the river? This has nothing to do with the characters. So I grew up in a town that had the convergence of two rivers right there. We did lots of fishing, and the river would get real low. It was only like 2 feet deep, and we'd be like, you know what we should do? We should walk out there. I'm going to tell you something. That is millions of gallons of water that have been traveling for a long way. You do not stand and walk around in it like it's no big deal. If you fall, you're done. And him being even close to that waterfall, that would have been the end of it. Anybody who's experienced the hydraulic power of lots of water in a river that's moving, that was the most unbelievable part of the entire thing.
I love when this show becomes the Bad Batch doesn't understand how water physics work, because this is the second time this has happened. Because if you go back to the Pabu episode of season 2, Chris spent a lot of time explaining to us why you shouldn't go towards land during a tsunami. And so we've had that. Now we've had Eric explain why you shouldn't fight in a river like that. I think, I don't know, Ben, have you got some...
Who's in charge of
with the amount of lives that we are saving here, both of, people at the confluence of rivers and people in tsunami zones?
This is, if I had a nickel for every time this happened, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice. All right, Ben, you got something to say. I can see it in your eyes.
No. Well, I have a ton of things to say. You'll have to stop me. Back to tech. One of the things I was going to bring up against the tech idea was that in this episode I know I switch sides sometimes.
There's 2 bands. This is quite obvious.
This is me going, I think it's tech. I don't think it's tech.
For everyone listening, Ben just took off his glasses.
Yeah, he's too bent. He's like Gollum. He's like Gollum and Smeagol.
You thought it was the top hat? No, it's just the glasses, man. It's just the glasses. That controls everything. But like with tech, we have the revelation in this episode that Crosshair confirms that they were trying to turn him into one of these dudes, and they didn't work because, according to Crosshair, being quote unquote defective made it difficult to turn him into one of these things, to wipe his memory, take away his identity, whatever they do to these guys. So like that would lead you to believe that like the similar would be true for tech, that they wouldn't be able to turn tech into one of these things without that. And I part of my thinking in regards to tech was just like, I feel like there was so much like you could say that in this episode, Clone X or whatever he's called, he's like another main character in this show. Like there's so much time spent on him telling you exactly where he is, what he's doing, what he's feeling, like listening to what he says. Like there's several scenes where it's just him. And you watch any movie or TV show, you follow what the camera is telling you what you need to know. It's telling you, it's focusing on certain things to tell you this character is important, and he's important to the Bad Batch. And I feel like it might be tech because they have spent so much time, and I feel like it has to be someone significant to the batch. And I felt away from Cody just from the standpoint of like he's not as ingrained. I don't think Cody ever met Omega. Like he isn't that ingrained in the batch, but he is integral to the Bad Batch. Like they're in this story because of Commander Cody. Like in the Bad Batch arc, Cody calls them in and like brings them to an axis. So like, and not only that, it would be huge for Star Wars in general, I think, because like Cody is like one of the first named clones we ever got in Star Wars. He was one of the first. The general idea of, oh yeah, these clones have different personalities and they have different names. They're not just all the same. Cody was like the first one we got where he had this relationship with Obi-Wan and all this kind of stuff. And then he flipped and became something else. So it'd be huge to like, okay, this is Cody now. This is Cody. This is tragic story of not only did he betray Obi-Wan, he betrayed everyone.
I mean, and coming back to the thought of like how this would interplay for Rex and this thought of what's going to happen after with Rex's character. I mean, he goes from this, like starting his clone rebellion to going, let's just kick it back on this quiet planet with Gregor and Wolf. There has to be some sort of catalyst for that. I don't think he just winds down the process and goes, you know what, I'm going to retire now. I think there's a big moment for him in my mind. I think there's got to be a large catalyst for that. And seeing the downfall of Cody, which we would assume to think, oh, maybe that would make him more angry to do something about it, or like, you know, get back at the Empire. I think that'll be his light bulb moment, which was kind of teased in the conversation that he had with Hunter at the end of this episode, saying, you know, Hunter talking about, you know, this is not a matter of we got to figure out how to defeat the Empire. This is a matter of we got to figure out how to survive and stay safe and get out of here, because this is much, much bigger than us clones pulling together. This is a galaxy-wide threat, and we can't defeat this. And I don't know. I just think the idea of having seen Cody, his counterpart for many years, all through the war, be succumb to the Empire, I think that would be a great point for Rex to be like, I'm out. Like I can't do this.
And that makes a lot of sense, because depression is a great motivator to take that path. That especially if he's forced to be the one that has to deal with where Cody's at, you know, that would have a real way of driving you to almost a point of paralyzation. If you've ever experienced depression, a lot of times that's where it leads, and you become paralyzed. And then as you eventually come out of that, you're a changed person, and you realize that you can't let certain things matter to you as much because of what they do to your soul. And that would lead to him chilling out on a planet and just being a dude for a while. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
As we have this discussion debate, I'm reminded of the wise words of a little girl in a make your own taco commercial. Why not both? Why not both? There's many of these CX troopers out there. Why not both Tech and Cody? And you know that you can wrap up Tech's story in Bad Batch, and then you move the Cody storyline to a subsequent story that is about you know, Rex grappling with his own you know, post-war trauma, and you know, dealing with what becomes of his what has become of his friends, which again he started to grapple with that in the Bad Batch arc of season 7, Clone Wars.
Yeah, and like we have that great quote at the end of this episode where it's in the trailer, but it's a little bit different. It's, you know, Rex saying, I thought the end of the war would mean an end to losing more of my brothers. And I think that could be very poetic if this turns out to be like, I mean, it is poetic anyway, because ultimately this whole episode is clones fighting clones, and clones being turned against each other either through just sheer ignorance we have with Wolf, or being brainwashed into, you know, doing something else. Ultimately it's sad. And I think if it turns out to be Cody, that's ultimately really going to be rough for Rex in particular.
Yeah, it's true. Speaking of Rex's friends, let's talk about Commander Wolf.
Yes, let's go.
Making his return to the screen. Okay. I'm going to say something about Commander Wolf.
Oh.
I'm listening carefully.
This scene in which he returns is the one part of the episode that fell completely flat for me.
No.
What?
Come on.
No.
Because Wolf on Rebels is a character with an interesting storyline and an interesting personality. Wolf on Clone Wars is a cool design that's named after the favorite animal of the supervising director.
What?
He does nothing on that show. I never understood the appeal of this character beyond he's Dave Filoni's favorite, which in and of itself, fair enough. No, I can't argue with that. But so there's not enough history between Rex and Wolf, or Wolf and any of these other characters, for me to feel anything when he shows up on screen beyond, oh yeah, that guy. There's plenty of futury. There's no history, but there's futury. And so knowing where this leads, I can appreciate the futury. But the history is not there. And from that standpoint,
you just make up a word.
This should have been Cody.
I mean,
Cody shouldn't have gone. Cody shouldn't have gone AWOL in the other episode, or he shouldn't have been in the other episode. This scene would have been way, way, way more impactful if that was Commander Cody on that ship chasing him down.
Yes. Okay, I'll agree with you there that nothing. The biggest moment for a clone returning is going to be Cody, because Cody is the clone that we know from even before. The Clone Wars show. We know him from Revenge of the Sith.
And let me be clear. When I say this is Cody, that's if we take season 2, episode 4 out of the equation, which we shouldn't, because that's one of the greatest half hours of Star Wars television of all time.
I completely, I agree with that. However, that thought never entered into my brain because I still like this. So having that come out of not liking this is the part that I disagree with. First of all, okay, so you went from me just talking about how excited I was for him to come back to now having to talk about why. Okay, so this is why Commander Wolf is an incredible character. He has a cybernetic eye, and he hates
great design
droids. He hates droids. I'm going to take this to a character point of view.
Where is that laid out in the show?
He's distrustful
Where
of them.
Where is that laid out in the Clone Wars? That's some StarWars.com episode guide lore.
I'll tell you, it's the episode where he has to oversee R2 and 3PO go into like the Neverworld down a hole on a planet.
You mean the greatest episode of Star Wars TV? Actually.
Yeah, right. It's that one, and he's like
Nomad
super,
droids.
like, okay, whatever R2D2, okay, whatever 3PO. Like he's super nonchalant about them, and like, or to the point of like not liking them. That's what episode.
And the reason why is because he has the cybernetic eye. He's feeling that he's becoming a droid.
Oh,
so he has internalized fear of what he is becoming, and he's pushing that out on it. So it's a great psychological piece. So he has that thing. He has that thing.
This is some Pablo Hidalgo level, like.
Okay.
Let me explain. I'm gonna put a little line in a book that describes why his eye means something, but we're never gonna say anything about it on screen.
So again, it's like the visuals.
Did you know that Phasma's armor is made out of the same stuff as the Naboo starships? Wow, that must make her tie into the Phantom Menace somehow.
So here's the thing: is like. Yes, there's this superficial stuff too, which I will mention for all the people that like Boba Fett just because Boba Fett it looks like Boba Fett, because that's still valid. The visuals are still a part of storytelling. So what's amazing visually is he's got references in his helmet to Boba Fett iterations, both the Joe Johnston like original Boba Fett prototype stuff and then the current Boba Fett. So you he's got like the little red arrow and the yellow rectangles and things like that from various versions of Boba Fett. So that's a really cool kind of nod to the that Mandalorian origin of the clone trooper armor. So that's really cool too. So you have the visuals, you have what's going on from a character point of view. So there are things that are interesting there. And so that, and just me being nostalgic for the fact that he was one of my favorite clones from the Clone Wars show, that was kind of like a, one of those dark horse, you like the character just because they're cool, not necessarily because they're the centerpiece of something, that type favorites. That gave me like a lot of nostalgia and made me super excited. So again, like I said in the story, at the beginning, when that was one of my biggest reactions from the episode, because I had missed somehow the spoiler that he would be in it. And so when I saw him, I'm like, Wolf, it's Wolf. Oh my gosh. I got a huge rise out of me. I was super, super excited. So, and I would assume that a lot of people who are fans of the Clone Wars would have agreed with that, even if, again, there are certain characters that might have maybe made more sense if you were to rewrite the whole, season. Sure.
Season,
But at the same time, like, it's like, come on, like.
let me say this. I'm not saying you're wrong to be excited about this character. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. I don't believe in telling people not to be excited about these sorts of things. And like, I do think you're right. I think there's a good number of people that are excited by this character because he is Dave Filoni's character, and that means something to us because we like Dave Filoni. So like I'm there for it. But like, you know, okay, these episodes were released back to back. Most people will view them back to back. And you know, like that's so we think about them as one episode. But like the stinger for the end of the first episode is Wolf showing up. And to me, you might as well pick any clone we've ever had. It might as well be them. And it's like, oh, neat. I guess we'll get something cool with them in the next episode, which, to be fair, we did. And I really liked where they went with it. Again, ignoring the lack of history and establishing the futury, I think works really, really well in part 2 of this. But like when I realized that was the stinger, I was like, okay, neat. That's a character we know, and that's a character we know will be important. But in the moment, as like a reveal, it didn't mean a lot to me. And anything that in that scene that meant something to me either would have worked if that was any other clone, or is built on the fact that we know ultimately it winds up being Star Wars Rebel, where this character winds up in Star Wars Rebel.
I mean, that's why that's ultimately the reason why I think they chose because Filoni's not the one making those decisions.
Yeah, true. And that's a fair point, and that makes sense. But it just, I don't know. I always felt that this character got like outsized like attention for like the actual amount of story, and that this, had we had several Rex Wolf adventures leading up to this point, that moment would hit so much harder
in chronology.
Yeah, in chronology,
because obviously there's the Rex Wolf adventures that are to come.
But that's in the future. That builds off of this moment. But this moment appears to be building off of a history that we haven't seen.
But does that matter though? Because, you know, you can say a lot of the Star Wars prequels decisions were made because there was history from the future of the original trilogy. And, you know, it's certain things, if you just were to watch the Star Wars prequels and not watch the original trilogy, there'd be some head scratchers in there about, okay, why is this character here? What purpose are they really serving? That could have been another character, like the same thing. But it's so big because it's that foreshadowing.
Yeah, but it's the emotional crux of this like the climax of this episode is Rex, you know, saying to Wolf, like, I know you, I know what you're like. And I'm like, from where? From the future? Because I know that from the future. That makes sense to me. But from the past, I haven't seen that. I know.
I mean, that's okay. So that's like, so what it is like to me is, you know, you work a certain job at a place, and then many, many years later in your future, you work a different job somewhere else. And it's like, it's not like it's your, you know, it's your work buddy.
Where this is going.
It's not like it's your work buddy. It's not like the one that you're always working beside every day, cracking jokes with, getting through the day with, that you see. It's just someone who you know from your previous work, who, you know, you might have had some passing hellos to, highs, you know, can you help me with this? You know, just kind of a very, you know, surface level casual relationship. But you see them and you're like, oh, hey, Joe from 10 years ago. Wow, you're here too. You have that sudden, this is cool. Wow. This is some,
you're upholding a fascist regime. Look at that.
right. Yeah. So it's like, it's kind of like that. It's like, you know, there's that camaraderie that exists amongst the commanders and captains of the Grand Army of the Republic. And yeah, they might not all have had on-screen adventures together of that depth, but you still have that, you know, it's going to mean a lot to them that they're seeing each other.
You're making sort of like a band of brothers kind of.
Yeah.
You know, nobody else knows what they've been through, but they know.
So it means a lot. It means a lot to, I mean, obviously it means an incredible amount to Wolf that it's Rex on the other side.
Yes.
Like if that was just some, you know, random other rebel character, that whole thing would not have gone down the same way. I mean, I think it wasn't just, you know, Rex making a convincing argument to Wolf, but also the fact that it's Rex. I mean, what happens the first time, you know, they see each other? They take their helmets off. Rex takes his helmet off, say, hey, it's me, it's Rex. You know, they know there's a clone under there. It's clone armor, and there's different armor that the other ones are under. So they know they're clones. It's not to show that they're the same face. It's to show that this is me, this is Rex, this is Wolf. And so that means a lot to them. And then it means a lot to us because we have that history with the characters too. It's not a random clone. It's somebody that we do know. It might not be the one that we have the most emotional attachment to or the most information about the relationship between the two people on screen, but we still have some level of, it's that guy. We know who that guy is. If you're watching it chronologically and you discount the fact that they become a lot closer in the future and don't even count that.
So this is a total sideline. Chris, I totally agree with you. But one of the things I want to mention, this has been like one of our points of contention with the show in this season on the Sith list, especially King Tom, is, you know, when you're talking about Wolf and some of the things that set him apart, you're talking about the visuals on his helmet. In the image that we had on the screen, it's so freaking dark, you can't see any of it. And that's how a lot of this season has been, where all these scenes are so dark. It's kind of like some of the complaints from Solo when it came out. It's like, why does everything have to be so dark? And there is a ton of that in this season so far.
I've got to say, referring back to my story, you know, I wanted to watch this while alert, so I watched it during the day and with a lot more light in the room. And, you know, my assumption was, okay, you know, maybe it's just the fact that there's natural sunlight glaring on my TV that I have to kind of squint to see certain things, but that really shouldn't be the case. You still should be able to watch TV during the daytime and see what's happening on screen. Like this episode definitely had some issues that Game of Thrones had in a couple episodes. Like, dang.
Let me tell the stupider version of that, which is I was trying to eat my dinner while watching this episode at night with the lights off, trying to get that movie theater-esque experience. And I thought there'll be enough light from the TV that I won't spill anything on me. I may have been wrong.
Oh my God.
Whoops. I may have been wrong.
My cat, who can see really well in the dark, was like, man, it's dark in here.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's good.
Here's something.
I want to go to Hannah real quick because I think we're going to lose her in a couple minutes.
Losing me. Yeah.
You were threatening me with a Nerf gun while I was making that argument about.
I was.
Wolf. So I want to hear from you about what you thought of this this part of the episode or this character.
Yeah. So basically, why the hell do you hate the Clone Wars, Dom?
Yes.
That's my question. What's wrong with you? No, I think it's I get this kind of a bit of it, like, oh, we don't know him that well. No. Like there's kind of a argument in that. But I mean, I feel like am I an idiot? Did I not know this? But I got the shock of my life. I was like, oh yay, it's Wolf. But the punching moment for me was, oh, he's not coming as a part of the Clone Rebellion already. He's coming from the Empire. That was the wow moment for me.
Yeah.
The freak out moment of like, oh, he doesn't know. He doesn't know yet that this is the wrong side. Oh my God. Like this is going to be a story now. This is going to be a journey now that he's going to go on. And then that kept me hooked. And that's why I was so hooked with that conversation that he had with Rex. And so I think that wowness of that moment kind of maybe just stopped me from thinking of like, oh, we didn't really see this guy in the Clone Wars. Like I didn't really think that because I was like, oh, like how does he know? Like, is he going to arrest them immediately? Is he going to be changed? Like what's going to happen right now? So I thought that was the big wow moment for me with Wolf coming up.
Yeah. I'll quickly say, like, you know, I think there might be some misattribution going on of, wow, the wow was supposed to be the reveal of Wolf himself. And I understand that what I'm about to say correlates with the argument of, well, it could have been anyone. But the point is, it could have been anyone as long as it was somebody with that previous history, or at very least someone recognizable as a clone. Because I think perhaps while the intention of the writers was, you know, you have this cliffhanger of, okay, so it's somebody that is not going to just be solidly a automaton for the Empire that they're fighting against. That's interesting. That makes me want to watch the next episode. I think that's what they were going for. Not necessarily I want to watch it because it's Wolf.
And here's what. Go ahead, yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go, man.
No, I've got a thing, and you got to go in like a minute. So go ahead, please.
Well, it's like it was gonna be like my final like big note that I was like just really contemplative of this kind of. I mean, it's kind of the final scenes we get of what we're talking about here. Is my favorite thing that these scenes do is it's having these very human and honest conversations about the state of the clones. And I mean, I love the nod of I thought you went down with the Venator. And that Rolf asks to Rex, and Rex says, no, I survived, but I lost many brothers that day. The best clone storytelling, I mean, it's all been fantastic all through Clone Wars and Bad Batch. But the most standout stories were, for me, for the clones, was the Umbara arc. I think that was such a cinematic, pivotal story that was told. And I found that these two episodes and kind of what they're chatting about here in these end scenes is of that vein of what is our identity as clones? What is our identity as individual clones and our choices? And that was such a horror that in the Umbara arc that they were faced to kill each other, and Krell put them against each other and to kill their brothers. And I mean, Umbara didn't come up in the conversation, but it was the same ideas being thrown around of, why are we being faced with each other? Why, we have to be doing good. We can't just follow what's being given to us. And that conversation actually hitting a chord with Wolf, I thought was really interesting. And what I think, Chris, did you just say this? To see a character that isn't just, I'm good that long live the Empire, I'm going to kill myself for it, or like a rebel or a rebellion kind of against the Empire. We have those two sides, but to see a character kind of in the middle, but he's just kind of, it seems like Wolf's just kind of like accidentally caught there. Like he just didn't get the memo that clones are meant to be uprising against this. Like he just forgot that text and didn't text back or something.
Right.
To have a character that's in the middle and he's seemingly quite easily swayed. It was like one chat and he was like, you got a point. Okay. Yeah. The Empire's pretty bad. It was interesting. It's just interesting. There was many points in that big rant, but those are my thoughts.
I love that you bring up the Umbara arc, because that arc ends with a conversation between Rex and Fives going, someday this war is going to end. What are we going to do? Like what happens to us? We're soldiers. What do things? And like the Bad Batch is directly answering that question right now.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
It's true. And I will say, I've been sort of questioning why it was Wolf and why that I was meant to feel big things about Wolf. Everything that happens is incredible. And you all have laid out that the reasoning for that. The moment between Rex and Wolf, the helmets coming off, Rex appealing to Wolf's humanity and Wolf choosing to let them go and then go back and bury the clones that died in the fight. Amazing, phenomenal, so good. And I didn't mean to distract too much from that, because that part of the episode is just some of the best of the best moments that we've gotten in this season and in the Bad Batch as a whole. Absolutely. But Hannah, I believe we have to let you go. We're losing you. Before you go, do you want to give final thoughts and score out of 10 for these eps?
Absolutely. Again, like I said, I just love the tone, the story, the direction, everything that happens in these episodes. I think each character really gets their kind of moment of little bit of development. We get Rex, we get Hunter, we get Omega, we get Crosshair. Don't really get too much of Echo. We get a little bit of Wrecker. I don't know if we mentioned it yet, but the last thing I also really loved is the whole point of like the leaving Crosshair behind story idea. And there was that point where they were all trying to escape the building and the rocks, and Wrecker waited at the door for Crosshair, and Crosshair was like, you didn't have to wait, and he was like, Crosshair said something and Wrecker said, no, we were waiting for you, we weren't leaving without you. And I was like, that's a great line, that's a great show of the change of storytelling. 9.5 for both episodes.
9.5 for both episodes from Hannah. All right, Hannah. We'll see you next week.
Thanks so much, gang. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. What else have we got? You know what, Ben? You know what I think we should do? I think it's time. It's that time. It's time for everybody's favorite segment. You know it. You love it. It's once again time for Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. Eric, you're a musician. Do you think we have a hit there?
Oh my gosh, yeah, what a banger. I can't believe like record labels aren't beating down your door right now. And you know, there's gonna be just countless covers of this on TikTok, and it's gonna be really gonna be something.
We got to come up with the Ben's Connection Corner dance, and
that's all we need.
We'll be all set. All right, Ben. What connections have you got for us?
Well, since you, I was going to mention this earlier, but I didn't get a chance, so I'll mention it now. As we're talking about Wolf, it seems like a perfect opportunity to go over the fact that, we have like another reason why Wolf being in this episode kind of makes sense and makes sense being in this season is the fact that Wolf has a cybernetic eye. The reason he has that cybernetic eye, he lost his eye to Asajj Ventress. That is part of the lore. It's not actually in the show, as Clone Wars often did. It was just like, here's this cool thing that you never saw. Pre-Vizsla and Count Dooku, they fought. You never saw it. Todo 360 got blown up, got built back. You never saw it. You know, apparently at some point, Asajj Ventress and Commander Wolf had a tangle, and he lost his eye to that. But we actually did see Ventress absolutely kick the crap out of Wolf in The Jedi Knew Too Much. That was a classic episode where Ventress decided not to kill anyone, and Ahsoka begged her not to. So there's that. So it is interesting that those two characters have a history, and Wolf's here, and Ventress will soon be here, and I don't know. Could be something there. Could be. Probably isn't, but could be.
A reunion between two characters that never that their history was never actually shown on screen. Yeah,
we've never seen that before.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh boy. So obviously we got Teth in this episode. Great to see Teth again. I'm pretty sure, I can't confirm this, I'm pretty sure the room that they're in is the room where Obi-Wan and Ventress, again, duel for the first time. The first time we ever see Ventress is in this monastery in the Clone Wars movie. So again, the Ventress connections keep coming. They keep coming. So who knows? Do with that what you will. I just deleted my notes.
Undelete. Undelete button.
Oh, I found him. I got him. I just I was like punching buttons like nonchalantly. I'm like, wait, where'd they go? I didn't have that many, but I need them. Anyway, and we look. This is you sound nuts like me. You know what's coming. Wilhelm scream. We got a Wilhelm scream.
I heard it.
I heard it. It's right, very prominent. Very prominent. There's also a lot of David Collins clones or stormtroopers in this one. Nice. If you listen to the soundtrack show a lot, or just like know David Collins' voice, you will catch him. He's everywhere. Like there's a bunch of them in there. But we got a Wilhelm scream finally because they like weirdly retired it for a while. It wasn't in the sequel trilogy, I don't think. And now it's
very
back.
faintly in Force Awakens.
Okay, yeah, and then there's a few
stealing the TIE fighter. Yeah.
There's a few different versions of the Wilhelm scream. I'm not familiar with all of them, so sometimes they could slip past me. But it's nice to see it come back and just like Crosshair, just like sometimes the batch is like using stun blasts, and sometimes they will just shoot the pilot and let the thing crash and kill everybody on board. They don't give a crap. It really just, I guess it just depends on their mood. Okay, so this next segment is a segment within a segment I call Ben's Disconnection Corner. Disconnections in the corner with Ben. Okay, enough of that. So I can only credit Twitter for this because there was some Twitter sleuths out there that there were some allegations going around that there were some bloopers in this episode. There was some production mistakes. And look, I'm the blooper king here. Okay, I love me some bloopers, and I was disappointed that I didn't catch these. I've only seen the episodes once, so hadn't really a chance to do some proper research. But there was some couple of them. There was one where someone said that there was a floating clone helmet in the background, and I did some digging. It's not true. It's not true. I made it tell you. There's a viral tweet going right. Look at this, and I'm like, no, guys, no, just watch the clip in motion. It's the clip I think when Wolf comes down in the ship and they're going to confront Rex, and in the background there's a clone helmet. You can only see his helmet, but it's like he's just behind the elevator thing. He's not floating there.
You know what? People are starting to see things because there's this whole thing with the dude standing behind Anakin on Mustafar that's like going around.
We haven't even talked about that. That's amazing. I'm still skeptical about that. I have to watch Revenge of the Sith now and see because like I don't believe it. I'm like, there's no way. This is like for 20 years we totally missed this. Incredible. Also, apparently, and I have seen this. I've seen video evidence of this. Apparently, there's a part where like Wolf is holding a gun and then holsters it into his sidearm, and the gun is not there. It's not rendered in or something like that. Which going back to Clone Wars, there were all kinds of different things. Sometimes there's some very famous shots of like Anakin holding his lightsaber, and then Anakin's lightsaber is still on his belt. Like there's some wild stuff back in Clone Wars. They haven't done as much. So yeah, I know Twitter. I know Omar. Who knew somebody could lie on Twitter? It's just amazing. Just
and
amazing.
I have about 600 accounts that may argue with you that you can lie on Twitter. I don't know.
700 now.
I'm surprised, like because I remember the holstering the sidearm. Because listen, it's practically a meme at this point of how much Red Dead Redemption I play. Okay, it's like my entire persona, and I was like, because at first I thought, "Ooh, that's cool. That was like a cool Western vibe there." I would have noticed the gun disappearing. So I'm disappointed in myself. Either that or it's not true. It's one of the two.
At this point, I wouldn't put it past some of these people to like doctor the footage to make it look like a blooper, just banking on people not checking on it, just to get internet points.
Yeah, that's where we're headed with AI generated bloopers. That's what we're looking towards. All right, Ben. Anything else?
I think that's all. I mean, I may have deleted them. I don't know. I'll check back in next week to see how it goes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's been another delightful, insightful, wonderful edition of Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. All right. What do we?
Ben does have the rhythm. There's just lag.
All right. Let's.
Wait, what'd you say?
You do have rhythm. There's just lag.
Oh my goodness. All right. Let's go around the table one more time. Give some final thoughts and scores out of 10 for these episodes. Chris, why don't you start us off? Final thought score out of 10 for what are these episodes called? Extraction and Infiltration.
All right. So, I was going to give the episodes a certain score because I really, really like them. They, are incredible, episodes. I don't want to just repeat everything I've said before, so just rewind. But I'm actually going to bump it up a teeny bit out of spite just to show my solidarity with Commander Wolf here and say that is the thing that pushed it for me into this category. So this is a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. I like
amazing episodes. 10 out of 10 for both of them. I want to see more like this. I want to see just this every week after the Bad Batch.
I like the clapperboard as the just scorecard. I think that works. Eric, what about you? Final thoughts, score out of 10 for these two.
I really dig what they're doing with this, and all jokes aside about how dark, well, it's not a joke about how dark it is. It's really, really good. And I'd have to say 9.5. And the only reason I don't say 10 is because I never want to believe that there's not somehow slightly more that they could do. So maybe more like 9.75. But yeah, 9.5 I think is fair. It's great stuff.
Nice. Ben, final thoughts, score out of 10.
Yeah, so like I said, I really did enjoy these episodes. I think they're really solid in the way that they're setting up. I think we really feel like we got the Bad Batch story in the previous episodes. I think we're getting the full context of the coming conflict and what's going to be going down on Tantus or wherever else we're going. I think bringing in back Rex and all these different clones, R.I.P. Nemec. And Fireball, who went out in the most ironic way possible in a giant fireball. So it's it's really great. My only pet peeves of this episode, I feel like there was maybe a few too many scenes where it's just like they're running down a hallway and they're running through the jungle. It's like there was a lot of that. I tend to get to the point here. Like there's a lot of that happening in this episode, and I understand characters have to move from point A to point B, and there's a lot of that, and it's very intense and things. And I really do need to watch these episodes again because I think they always play better, second, third, fourth time for me personally. But I really think these are two of some of the best episodes of the Bad Batch so far. I'll give this a 9 out of 10. The two of them.
9 out of 10 from Ben. Yeah, I was also going to give this episode a certain score, but
here we go.
Out of spite, I'm gonna give it a 2. No, I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. A 9 out of 10. Very, very strong episodes. Really, really, really good storytelling. Really excellent moments between the characters, and really good setup for what's to come. And I so look forward to the revival and redemption of Tech. All right, let's see. How much time do we have? Let's get a couple of questions from the audience. Let's go to super chats first from Joel. We've kind of touched on a couple of these from Joel already. He thinks that Tech or Cody are likely the candidates for the Shadow Trooper since they have an emotional connection to the Bad Batch in some form. We've debated that at length earlier, so I think we've touched on that. But yeah, Tech and Cody do seem to be the front runners. Maybe there's a dark horse out there that we don't know about.
I think we talked. Hannah brought up the Bad Batch. Hannah brought up Umbara earlier. Somebody else put it out that maybe it's Dogma.
Oh, I could see that. I could totally see that.
I don't have enough time to ask why.
Because Dogma is the blind follower of orders.
Oh, okay. All right. I like that.
Also, everybody in the world that didn't watch Clone Wars 5 times through like us will be like, who?
The only reason why I remember it is because he is one of the few Clone Wars characters whose name matched with the character. Like I'm gonna die, for instance. Like Dogma was being dogmatic, so I just stuck in my head.
He's also, we never got the resolution to him. Like he just led away and put in a brig, and it's like, what the heck happened to that guy?
He became a Clone X trooper.
Palpatine was like, "We will watch your career with great interest."
Exactly. Joel also says, I think in this day and age, everything is a backdoor pilot to something else. It's the era of cinematic universes. Look at Marvel as the prime example. Yeah, I mean, we could just sit here and we did a little bit of that earlier and go, that could be a show. 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 And you can do that with just about every Star Wars thing.
Never can have too much.
Yeah. Why not?
It's not possible.
Why not? And then Joel says, I think the wolf stuff adds to the never-ending debate of watching all Star Wars in chronological or release order. Things hit differently.
For sure. 100%. You got to straddle the both. That's what I think you got to do. It's like you can't make it all about stuff that has aired, in the past to reference things out of universe, but you can include a lot in there for the enjoyment of the audience and knowing that a good amount of it has seen something before, even if the characters haven't seen it yet.
Foreshadowing is good. Like I think it's really great when you can watch a movie and then watch the movie again and go like, okay, that was all there from the beginning. They were trying to tell us something with that. I think Star Wars tends to do that, perhaps not as eloquently as they could. And it was like, oh, Anakin said most impressive in this episode of the Clone Wars, he's going to be Darth Vader one day. You know about that? You know, it's that kind of stuff.
You know what it does too is it adds that rewatchability, because inevitably your second go around watching something can never be the same as the first time if they foreshadow, because it's always going to hit differently. I mean, random example, but like the musical movie La La Land had a subversive ending that musicals don't typically have. I was expecting the typical musical ending, so I thought it was a good movie, but then knowing the ending and how subversive it is, and then watching it again for the second time, it hit way different knowing what was going to happen. It made it a very, almost like a bittersweet type movie instead of just a fun time. And
no
so
spoilers.
for a movie that came out, I mean, Emma Stone's won a second Oscar since then, but that's how long ago it was. But yeah.
One of the greatest foreshadowing moments in all of Star Wars, and you know, I'm a musician, we talked about it before, and like the score in the Bad Batch season 3 has been fantastic thus far. Like they've really taken some chances maybe that they haven't before, but it's in the end of Phantom Menace at the very end during the celebration, and the theme it's the Emperor's theme, but in a major key instead of minor. And I noticed it right away the very first time I saw the movie, because I'd been listening to a ton of Star Wars soundtracks leading up to it. And so I'm like, clap, clap, clap. That's very good. And that's like, so, and that's for the fans. That's super, super nerdy, man.
But it does, you know, it leaves something in your brain. So even if you are watching the films in chronological order, like you'll hear you'll hear that music come on, and you'll start to connect the dots with the Emperor.
Imagine it being the opposite way. It's like, oh, it's the celebration music, but in minor key. Whoa.
Yeah.
Look at how things have turned.
Yeah. Exactly. A couple of questions from the Discord. This one comes from Vlad Sander, who says, hello there, SWU. You are brave ones. Yes, we are. They call them the Bad Batch. Episode 6 and 7. Are you going to try and tell me that those two episodes weren't just one full episode and they had to split? Yeah, that's basically it. They were one whole episode, and they just picked a stopping point, the midpoint. So now I need to know what happened with Rex and Wolf between these episodes and when we catch up with them again in Rebels. Who else was wondering if the Shadow clones were enhanced with some of the techniques that were used to create the Bad Batch? Well, seeing as one of them is Tech. Yes, I would say that they are designed with that in mind. But no, I think that's something that goes back to like the very first episode, where the Kaminoans and Tarkin are sort of debating the effectiveness of the Bad Batch and if that could be harnessed into some other sort of weapon, and that may well apply to these Shadow Troopers. And then story between Rex and Wolf between now and Rebels. I mean, I'd say tune in and for the rest of the season. I feel like we're not done with that character. I think, and I think you know, again, always in motion is the future, and who knows what else may be coming up down the line. Question from Matthew, host of Ion Cannon. First, he just says, Eric. He's very excited to have Eric on the show. And then he says, okay, my question for everyone but Dom. How happy are you for Dom's sanity and health that Toronto Comic-Con finally has a coat check? So for the backstory for this, they didn't have one last year, and it was like below freezing. And so you had to wear your big winter coat to the convention center and then carry it with you all day. It was already packed. And like Matthew had to listen to me rant about this for 3 days nonstop, how much I thought this was ridiculous. God. And then they did the same thing at Fan Expo, but it was less of an issue because it was during the summer, so it's not a big of a thing. And then I went to another event at the convention center. I went to HockeyCon, during the NHL All-Star game, and they had a coat check, and I was like, finally, an event that knows how to be run. And then they were saying they weren't going to have one for this year's Toronto Comic-Con. And then literally today, today they're like, okay, we listened. So good on the organizers for listening.
See, I would just not wear a coat. I would just brave it in the elements if that was my situation.
I did that for Sunday of last year's Toronto Comic Con, and kind of regretted it. It was very, very cold, and it was very windy.
For those that listen that have never been to Canada, to Toronto, it being below freezing means it was probably like July 1st. And so, they probably just figured and then they didn't need a coat check on August 1st and then right back. So, yeah,
exactly. Well, and the irony is this year, if they did it without the coat check, the weather's been so weird and unseasonably temperate that we would have been fine, probably. Yeah. But you guys don't care about Toronto weather. What you might be interested in is letting me plug my panels one more time, like Intro to Star Wars Publishing, which is now actually less than 12 hours away. So I will definitely sleep well tonight. And that's at 11 a.m. In Theater 3, Room 202 AB with Claudia Gray. And celebrating Star Wars on Sunday, March 17th, 3:15 in Theater 4, Room 202 CD. Both are going to be great times. And final question from Kajira: any suggestions for Japanese language to help over in the language lessons server of the Discord, ordering food at a restaurant, etc.? And she also says, miss drawing y'alls for the little comics, LOL. So I don't know what has and has not been covered in the language server, but I would like some stuff that's specific to the convention. I'd like to know how can I say, how do I get to the celebration stage? Or
that's a good one.
Where's your coat check, for instance, might be a good one that I would want.
Where can I buy some Oreos?
Where's the IHOP?
Why don't you have an IHOP?
Yes.
Do you have pancakes here?
I don't know. I don't know if it's been covered yet, but as I was watching a random anime film, I was brought to my attention again that sometimes when you say simple things like hi or whatever, depending on who you are and who the other person is, you might say it differently because to show respect or status or something. So that's always a thing to go over. Anything that just in general is not a direct, as easy as just looking up a word on a dictionary or Google translating it, but there's a cultural significance to using a certain word over another word that to us might seem it's just the same word, same meaning. That's always important.
I keep telling myself I'm just going to be oh yeah, when I go to Japan, I'm just going to learn Japanese. I'm just going to learn. I'll just be fluent in Japanese. I'll just get around like that. And then I'm just I think another part of my brain is do you realize how hard that is? Do you realize it? And also, you should be studying now. And I still only know one language.
Time to download Duolingo, Ben. Let's go. Get in there, guys.
Look, I barely got a good grasp on English. Why would I think I can actually master Japanese too? Come on.
Amazing. All right. So if you want to submit questions for future Ask the SWU segments, the way to do that is, of course, to super chat during the live show or to submit the questions on Discord. But with that, we will begin to wrap things up for this week.
We would like to thank the 700 bots who enjoyed this episode. And we welcome you to come back in 7 days for another episode. But in the meantime, don't forget to follow us on @the SWU. And for you real humans out there, please follow in great numbers because the bots are winning. So you got to play some catch up there @the SWU on Threads and everywhere else. Dominic, thank you for hosting tonight.
It was my pleasure. As always, great fun breaking down these episodes and discussing and debating. And that was, for episodes that we all agreed were terrific, I feel like this episode of the podcast was fairly contentious, which was sort of not the vibe I was expecting, but I kind of liked it. It was fun. It was a good discussion. So yeah, I hope to see everybody at Toronto Comic Con this weekend. I will miss at least part of next week's show, if not the whole thing. So if I don't see you next week, we'll chat to y'all in 2 weeks with when there will have been at least 2 more episodes of the Bad Batch, possibly even more. I'm not sure at this point. But yeah, great show, fun times. Cannot wait to do this all again in 7 or 14 days, depending on how next Thursday goes for me.
follow all of the Toronto Comic Con shenanigans at Dominic J25 on social media. You're about to get 700 more followers. Ben, thank you for hosting as well.
Oh, it was a pleasure as always. I was glad to have infiltrated this episode, and I will now extract myself and have a good night, guys.
Wonderful, wonderful. You can follow Ben on social media at Ben Hart with no E. Hart. Wait, am I saying that right? Since you put Dark Lord of the Memes on your screen, I'm slowly forgetting your username.
Okay. I'll make it simple for you. If you see me walking down the street, feel free to follow me. I won't call it.
There we go. I believe it's at Ben Hart with no E. Social media, I believe. You're about to get 700 more followers as well. And of course, Eric, thank you for guesting tonight. We very much enjoyed having you on.
Guys, it's been great. I love you dudes, and I'm so proud of what you've accomplished, Dom, with the panels. That is killer. So ace job on all of you, man. Thank you. Really.
Awesome. And you can follow Eric on Twitch at MouseRat2217. Yes. Check it out. And make sure you check out Sith List as well, and the preeminent Bluey podcast in the world. Definitely check that out. Remind our listeners what that name of that is officially. Right? Yeah.
Dinner with the Healers.
Dinner with the Healers.
Yeah, that's the family. Out. Bluey's family's last name is Healer, Heeler. So the Dinner with the Healers.
Awesome. Because he's a dog.
Awesome.
He's a blue healer. I literally this week figured out that it's Bluey because blue healer. Like that, yeah. I was totally missing that part of the conversation.
Yeah, and Bluey is a girl. A lot of people don't realize that. Bluey's a girl, and her sister Bingo. Yeah.
Misgendering. Wow.
You need to watch the show. It's quite good. It really, really is.
I've been hearing this.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody who super chatted tonight. Thanks to our channel members. Thank you, everybody who subscribed on your favorite podcast app. Make sure you leave a review before you get off the app after listening to the show if you haven't. And then next thing to do is to get over to our Discord, enjoy the great discussion over there, our game nights, our movie nights, all of the great activities over on the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord. The link is in the description and the show notes and all that information. And make sure you also catch all the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network. Check out the Raeside over on Hannah's channel, Raeside. Check out Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. Check out Ion Cannon and Tractor Beam, and many other great things to come over at the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network. So that is it for Hannah and Dominic and Ben and Eric. My name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.